Move we adopt the agenda as presented. Yes.
Moving to the Pledge of Allegiance. We have students from the 8th middle school today, and I would love for you to come up and guide us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Let's see.
Scroll the clock.
No.
We're here too late.
I'll make a motion to continue the meeting.
School up. Hey, middle school is the school semester of February. Welcome.
Board members, we have this notice from middle school here tonight with some students from
Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. Dr. Peterson sent to the college recently about our recruitment, so I was just telling you from them. I am excited to introduce Ms. Fink. Ms. Fink is our NJHS and Student Council sponsor. We have kind of revamped our program and brought NJHS and Student Council back after a brief hiatus. So now I'm going to go to her to introduce us.
Thank you for letting us present tonight. I have two members of my NJHS, one is also with our student council, and one presents all the wonderful things that the student-led organizations have been doing so far this year. So,
Oh, hey.
On the upper left. There you go.
And this is the district vision. And this is the district mission. And our equity statements. So now, that's what it says.
Okay, so basically, National Junior Honor Society, or you could say NGHS for short, it's basically a group of kids that excel in academic behavior and attendance. And what we do for the school is host 2 dances per year and help out with the school and community. So it's kind of like, so like the dances don't seem like too big, but it's kind of like for it helps out with donations. And we did a donation for the student rescue, and we donated $300 towards it from like dance fees, and basically, and we also did like a personal care drive, and we sent Valentine's to a nursing home. So, and we also did like construction for the team hire, and we cleaned up the park.
You talk about what your role was?
Wait, I didn't really.
Julie.
Yeah, it's just Julia.
Oh.
Wait, my role, I just helped out. I helped out with dance by like doing like the booth and like selling things, and I helped out with the park, like by cleaning up and picking up trash. And I don't really have an important role because it's just like we all are equal and we all do the same thing. So it's kind of just like work together. This is a lot of questions.
Yes, thank you.
Student council, since going to school is like unbearable for people, but we all find a way to work through it. So we focus on celebrating the students for coming every day and celebrate, well, enhance school spirit. We are leaders for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and we come together 2 times a month, and we talk about issues that we think should be represented or like should like come to the light or the higher ups or something like like so students know that their voices are getting heard, and so they don't feel like they're doing it by themselves. So we can have fun times, make school more fun. We do dress up days to promote school spirit. We also sell candy grams for like fees, so we can help the school out a little bit. So as I was talking about candy grams are basically like these candies that we sell to the students, which are like 50 cents, something like 25 cents, cheap. So you write a note, you write your name, say who you're giving it to. You can give it to anybody in the building. You can send it to an adult, you can send it to a student, whoever you want. You write your name, you send a little note if you want to, and by the end of the week, the person got it and they enjoy their candy. We work on food drives and encourage students to help others that are less fortunate, so they don't grow up being self-centered, not to be mean or anything, but like
see in the picture, that was our first meeting of the entire year. We did a food drive, and as you can tell, it was very successful.
All those boxes back there.
Yeah, those are canned goods, stuff like that. Those boxes is heavy. Okay. Okay. Are there any questions you guys might have concerning student council or me? So since it was like COVID, it was really serious. Our teachers would recommend a student or two, just in case one student couldn't make it, another one could. And that's how you got on student council. You had your grades, you had your behavior, you were respectful, you could speak up about problems that most people wouldn't, yeah. That's how you got on student council, yes.
Have you taken any issues yet to the higher ups? How did they react?
We did. Last year, this is my first year at this school, but the students were really talking about like they wanted smoothie king back, like they got smoothies. Yeah. So we're working on that, and the one that we gotta update, the one that we did last year, we didn't get in contact. We couldn't get in contact. So the one here at our school, we contacted them, and we haven't heard anything back. I think not yet. So we're trying to let the kids be more free as COVID. I think we need like to improve for our school is like getting kids to talk about problems that they might see. Because they don't like, some people don't like to open up. But yeah, we don't want to like feel like they're getting bullied and they got themselves. Yeah. Can I ask a question to you guys? Sure. Okay, so how do you think you're helping with this like school district? Yeah. So like what policies did you agree with have a strong agreement to?
Comes up every month now.
Thank you for allowing us to speak today. Not gonna lie, I was a little nervous, started tearing up a little bit.
I was never nervous if it was.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the parents here. Could you please stand up and have a round of applause? Thank you so much. Wonderful hearing and updates. Okay, wonderful kiddos. 1.6, report of closed session. The Board of Education met closed session on January 13th, 2022. The person refuses to comply with the process for disruption will apply. So I do have. And so our first one is Amy Radcliffe.
My name is Amy Radcliffe, and I'm volunteers running for seats. I've lived in the school district for 15 years. My sons, both gifted honor students, used to attend here until I pulled them out to homeschool them due to the child abuse that goes on at Recruitment these days. I refuse to have my children or myself wear these useless bacteria-ridden muzzles. So you can send me all the poorly written passive-aggressive letters you want. I will not be wearing them here. Like our Attorney General said, masking children all day is ineffective, and these endless pandemic restrictions leave the lasting negative psychological impacts on children and teens. This is a fight worth fighting, and I'm not going to back down. End quote. I don't need to stand up here and, as a nurse, and try to explain to you the actual science regarding the virus. Several folks have already attempted that. You people don't want the actual science. You want just whatever disinformation brings in your life. Keeping these nefarious COVID guidelines in place just to continue the government funds rolling in at the expense of these children is evil. A lot of these children wouldn't even be able to recognize someone on the street that they've been to school with in these last 2 years because of the ridiculous mandates. I hope the money you're pocketing to harm these children like this haunts your conscience for the entirety of your lives. And to those of you who really do think that you're doing the right thing here with all this predatory behavior, to you I say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. To the rest, your gig is up, we're on to you, and you will be held accountable. Mark my words.
Now I have a letter written that also came in, and I will read that out loud. This is Debbie Weisler. She had written to say that she is unfortunately unable to attend working after funding sends. Now we writing to stop. You may be aware that over 80 private and public schools in St. Louis and St. Louis County are now masked off. This is a huge trend for students' social and emotional health and well-being. Staff and students at these schools are changing colorful faces and styles. These schools believe parents, students deserve a choice. That is why I'm asking the board tonight to remember to please allow staff, students, parents a choice about masking. But your students have a 0.3 positivity rate. That means 99.7% of students do not have COVID, and that should be celebrated. You cannot keep students in masks forever, and you have a plan in place if cases in our schools begin to rise. No other districts in St. Louis County that I'm aware of are basing their decisions on positivity rates in St. Louis County. Instead, they are simply looking at the number within their district. You know that reaching a case count 0 is not only unrealistic but impossible. It is okay for people to get sick if you are truly concerned about our community's health. You should spend more time promoting things like proper nutrition, regular exercise, exposure to sunlight, and supplements to boost people's immune systems. Wearing a mask does not hurt anyone's overall health, and I think you all know that. Our district can do better promoting health, because that is our goal to keep staff members and students well. 2 weeks ago, I worked in the ER at Children's Hospital, and at one point in the day, we had only 21 patients. 10 of those patients were there for mental health reasons like depression, suicidal ideation, overdose, and aggression. 50% of patients being seen that day were there for mental health reasons, not for COVID. I bring this up every time I speak here because we must be aware of the flow of the pandemic on our children. Again, we can do better. You can allow normalcy for students. It is what they desperately need. They need to go to school without fear. They need spectators that are supporting events and music. They need to see future faces and to see their peers actually smile at them. They need their parents or guardians to be able to visit them at school, help at dinner parties, and join them at lunch. Board members who have allowed these restrictions to go on for almost 2 years, and I'm asking you to end worst masking tonight. You do not have to approve the children are the least vulnerable population with a 99.98% survival rate from COVID. The masks need to come off the students' nose to remove them. Healthy and masked people are not a risk to anyone, and vaccinated and are new masked people who believe, if they believe in their mask and protection, have no reason to feel threatened. If someone in their proximity is not masked, they stop making decisions that are not necessary. Is that enough time? There we go. And so, to the impact. On to the President's report, 2.01. We are absolutely proud of our students. Tonight, we honor Gabriela Rojo, a Ritenour High School senior who is the recipient of Christian Hospital's Martin Luther King Drive Drum Major Scholarship. She was recognized for receiving the 1,000 college scholarship during Christian Hospital's virtual Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, which premiered on January 14th. The Drum Major Scholarship honors graduating seniors in North St. Louis County who show selfless leadership and plan to pursue a healthcare career. Gabriela will be attending Washington University next fall with a major in biomedical science and a minor in Spanish. She plans to transition to the university's graduate program to become a physical therapist and then later pursue a medical Spanish education. She says she is interested in becoming a physical therapist because she has accompanied her mother many times to physical therapy to translate instructions as she recovers from injuries. Congratulations, Gabriela. We are very proud of you.
So board members, you know that the process for the student representative, the next student representative of the Board of Education is running. We heard from, we received the written responses, and we also received a video response. The third option was students who are interested could interview directly with the board. So we have a student here tonight, 11th grader Drew Thomas, that will come and speak to you tonight. The response that, the question that Drew is going to be speaking on is how he would make a positive difference as the next student representative to the board. So Drew, if you please come up and walk us through the
Hi, my name is Andrew Thomas, but most people call me Drew. I've been in the Ritenour School District for about 13 years now. I've gone here all my life, all the way from preschool back when they used to have it at Ritenour Elementary. I believe that this opportunity would help our students out a lot. It's the first I've heard of a student being on the Board of Education, and I think that it could help the gap between students and education. When Dr. Kilbride came into my classroom and talked about the leadership opportunity here at the Board of Education, I seen a lot of kids really light up. They're confused. They didn't think that anyone at our school level could have an impact on the board. This opportunity shows that Ritenour is really trying to communicate to the kids and let us know that we have a voice and that we would like to let our opinions be heard. I also would like to mention that this is my first leadership opportunity that I've had. I've been wanting to have a more impact in my community, but I have not had an opportunity like this. This opportunity would help me educate others in the student body on how they can make an impact on the Board of Education. Thank you for this opportunity to run for the Ritenour Board of Education.
I think first off, thank you so much for being here tonight. We're very proud of you representing and being here. And definitely, or if you have any questions, I'm sure I can keep them up with you. Explain.
I know the student body pretty well. I am active in sports, so I know all the athletes really well, and I know the student body as a whole. And I think that I can get a lot of the students more motivated to be a part of their school. And that I always hear people complain to the teachers about what change they want to see, and let them know that they have a voice and they can make the change.
What's the priority for you?
A priority I've heard from a lot of students would be lunches, and I know that it's a very big debate, and there's a lot to be talked about that. But I believe my main point is to figure out what the student body would like and present it to the Board of Education.
Thank you so much. I don't want to interrupt anybody, but I also want to make sure that we don't provide an unfair advantage for everybody because we don't interview. But I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm glad that we had a couple of questions because I was just noted, because I know that we have a couple here too. So thank you so much. We're so proud of you. Thank you for being at the high school and coming up here and talking tonight.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Moving to 2.02 superintendent's report.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Alvin. So, board members, I'm here to speak about some of our students that are doing amazing things in the community. So, students at the Center for Gifted Ed that's at Ritenour Middle School. They found a way to address some food insecurity in the district by organizing a fundraiser to benefit the Ritenour Co-Care Pantry. Fifth grade students from Booter and Marion organized a jam day at their schools in December. All students were allowed to wear PJs on a certain on a day for a donation. In total, more than $1,000 was raised for the Ritenour Co-Care, and students presented a check to the Co-Care Board President, Ms. Angela Gobble, on the 12th of January. Students who organized the day at 2 schools with Connor Briggs, Dalen Hall Gates, Darrell Burris, Maya Bostic, Abby Klein, Kalea Price, Ariana Freeman, Olivia Pratt, Kaylee Gilchrist Bradford, Dante Briggs, Guadalupe Alcaraz, and Zane Clark. We're very proud of our students for their generosity and for their work to give back. And thank you, board members, for your support, your ongoing support of the Ritenour Co-Care Pantry at the Husky Support Center. The pantry is very busy. Customers are shopping through the pantry. One other thing I'd like to speak on tonight, board members. We partnered with Mattingly's. So Mattingly's has a web store that's open in recognition of Black History Month. There are T-shirts being sold through Mattingly's. The store has been held open through Sunday evening because the messages that were pushed out to schools have not been pushed out to the whole community. So we're working through that. That message will be pushed out through social media, and I want to make you aware that this evening there's information that's been pushed out to you about how you can access the Mattingly store to look at purchasing gear that they're offering, T-shirts and sweatshirts in recognition of Black History Month. So the school that most of the merchandise is sold through, they'll receive up to $600 in funds back to the school through a donation to be used.
So, Brad,
Thank you.
moving on to 2.03, legislative advocacy report.
So board members, things are quite busy in Jefferson City. Been in close contact. Just actually received during dinner tonight a text from Representative Rachel Prouty, stayed in close contact with Senator Williams as well as Senator Shute. As you may have heard, the congressional map is the vast majority of the conversation that's happening right now in Jefferson City. Just this week, there were 2 items that were voted on committee that had to do with the expansion of virtual charters in the state of within the last 3 weeks. There is some very dangerous legislation from our perspective that's out there, and we just encourage all the board members to take advantage of the legislative day through MSBA that is coming up on March 7th. So if there are board members, if there are other open seats, if not every board member is able to attend, we'd be reaching out to members of the LAC to ensure that's considered with us. Yes. So hopefully we'll be together on the 7th of March, and I'll do all I can to keep everybody abreast of all the changes that are going on.
Moving to 2.04, MSBA and SBA report, Dr. Brett Thomas.
All right, let's start out with our video. Thank you, sir.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of February. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at what's known as competency-based education, the idea that students should advance in their education based on their mastery of skills and expectations, not based on seat time. A new statewide group called the Success Ready Students Work Group is studying the issue here in Missouri. That group is made up of educators, school board members, administrators, parents, and other stakeholders. One of the facilitators of the group is Dr. Pam Hedgepeth, and she tells us competency-based learning meets the individual needs of students.
So competency-based learning is really centered on student learning. And it is an ongoing process of having really clear learning targets, and then students and teachers and parents using assessment tools to really identify where the student learning is. And then where student learning is, then designing instructional practices that really meet the individual needs of students. It's highly motivating for students. It keeps parents and teachers and students very informed on where the current learning level is, so that the learning can be scaffolded and supported to really meet the individual needs of students.
Another facilitator for the project is Dr. Mike Fulton. He tells us the goal of the group is to develop a framework for the use of competency-based learning in Missouri.
As part of that framework, redesign the current state assessment system, including the MAP test, to better support students, educators, and inform parents on where their child is on their learning continuum, and support them in their growth toward being college, career, and workplace ready. We also are going to have a component of this work that will speak to the need for flexibility by school districts who want to innovate in this space of competency-based learning and assessment.
The Success Ready Students Work Group will be holding a series of meetings during the coming weeks with the goal of having a framework developed by early May. We will be keeping you informed about this group's progress. Teacher recruitment and retention continues to be a major issue throughout Missouri. School districts were facing a teacher shortage prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has only worsened during the past 2 years. The minimum starting teacher salary in Missouri is $25,000 right now, the lowest in the nation. Governor Mike Parson proposed raising that minimum to $38,000 during his recent State of the State address to the General Assembly.
Unfortunately, Missouri is currently ranked 50th in the United States for starting teacher pay. And half of our new teachers leave the profession by their 5th year. This is unacceptable. We must do better. That's why we are proposing to raise teacher pay in every corner of the state.
Under Governor Parson's proposal, the state would fund 70% of the cost of raising the minimum teacher salary to $38,000, and local school districts would be responsible for 30% of the cost. There are many other issues being considered in the current session of the General Assembly that are of great concern to MSBA and school board members throughout the state. including the expansion of charter schools, making school board elections partisan, and moving school board elections to the November election day. As the legislative session progresses, we will keep you updated on developments again this year through our Legislative Voice newsletter sent to members via email each Friday during the session, our Twitter feed with up-to-the-minute developments through critical issue alerts and periodic webinars. We urge you to stay in contact with your legislators during the session and communicate to them the impact legislation will have on your school district. And don't forget, this year's MSBA Legislative Forum is scheduled for March 7th in Jefferson City. Check the MSBA website for registration information. MSBA also is pleased to once again sponsor School Board Recognition Week in Missouri, March 6th through 12th this year, as proclaimed by Governor Parson. It's a great opportunity for school districts and communities to recognize the work of school board members and the important role local boards of education play as leaders of our public schools. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Well, he does a good report, keep an eye on those emails that come in the legislative things. I know Chris wants to keep us up to date with it, but anytime you want to see on your own, go to the MSBA website. They're constantly updating the status of these issues. Last thing I want to mention, I saw sitting over here at Kenny's area, the magazine that we get monthly from NSBA. And it has a lot of good articles and national issues. So the National School Board Association is also a good resource for us as well. Yes, ma'am.
For the board for this year, are we supposed to be doing our continuing education again? Is that like a yearly thing? I was thinking about that the other day.
I think of some, I think we could do it for 1 year.
Yes, so. I just want to make sure, because I think that's so important. One of the things that we do with the board is we continue.
And I make sure for everybody that there are levels of boardsmanship or levels of education that they can do self information and delve farther into the issue that you want to read about. But they say write a paper, but what it is you're writing it for yourself. You submit to them and I can't criticize it and put an F on it or anything. But it's for you to reflect back on what you're reading that you want to explore. So it's a good way to get in deeper into the issue.
Moving to our business items, 3.1, return claim, plan approval, Dr. Gilbert, superintendent.
So good evening, board members. I'm here to present the Return to Learning Plan. As you know, every 30 days, boards of education in the state of Missouri wants to approve a Return to Learning Plan that outlines layering of strategies that impact students and staff across the district. So I'm here for you tonight with the recommendation for the month of February, as well as up to the March business meeting, which would be the 10th of March. So as you've heard, part of our recommendation has been based around since December, monitoring spread and positivity rates in St. Louis. It is accurate that that is a different approach than a number of other districts have taken. So we monitor the data on a daily basis. COVID data is moving in the right direction in St. Louis County. The high of spread in St. Louis County was mid to late January, a high of 39.5%. When this presentation was uploaded, which was Tuesday, positivity rate in St. Louis County was at 17.7%. As of today, it's dropped down to 17%. The why behind pegging this decision to data is, while not perfect, as has been discussed before, it is a metric around the rate of spread in the positivity rate. We maintain a dashboard, and so this dashboard is updated every Friday. So the HR department, led by Dr. LaChance, and the Student Services Department, led by Ms. Hahn, they collaborate with the health services staff and nurses from all the schools, as well as building administrators to update the dashboard data. If you remember, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week, we were fully virtual, and so offices were closed as well. This dashboard was not updated last Friday because we did not have students nor staff in person. So the ability to get that information in was compromised. So this data is from the 28th of January, Friday the 28th. As you can see, the numbers of the positivity rate as well as the quarantine rate has dropped significantly from where it was. And also, board members, if you remember, we moved away from quarantining close contacts. That had been a part of our plan for about the first 19 months of working through the pandemic. We moved away from quarantines of close contacts to isolating symptomatic and positive persons. That started on the 18th day of January, which was the first day of second semester. Positive students and staff are isolated from school. Symptomatic students and staff are isolated and encouraged to seek guidance from a healthcare professional. Those non-symptomatic students and staff continue to attend school with that expectation that if you're symptomatic or positive, you do not attend to keep others safe. We also discontinued contact tracing in schools, which was run by the nurses in the buildings, with close partnership with building administrators. Contact tracing was all around identifying close contacts, which were defined as 15 minutes or more in close contact over a 24-hour period. That process has been stopped as of the 18th of June. We also updated our isolation process to be in line with the CDC, shortened the duration of isolation from 10 days to 5. For those persons, whether it be students or staff that are still symptomatic at the end of 5 days, when we are in a mask recommended environment, then those students and staff would be required to wear their mask for days 6 through 10. Right now, with the in place, all are wearing masks every day. With this process, then, at the end of 5 days, if symptoms have resided, students and staff can return. If symptoms remain, then people will have to stay in isolation. We established the threshold that when St. Louis County moves to 7% or below, that we would move to a mask recommended environment. As I said, when this was put together on Tuesday, 17.7, it's dropped to 17%. So clearly the data shows that we are moving in the direction of the metric. The why around the metric was identifying how to get to a mask recommended environment as opposed to a when, and attempting to be guided by data around this decision. This has been pretty widely communicated across the district amongst staff as well as amongst the community. In the Return to Learning committee meeting that was held on Monday, there were some questions that arose during the meeting around the 7% threshold, kind of where it came from. The 7% threshold, we reached this threshold for a period of weeks back at the end of September, beginning of October. At that point, we were operating under the St. Louis County mandate. This was the lowest rate of community transition in the county for a period of weeks. And then we started to see infection rates increase from that point. And once we hit the Omicron variant, the infection rates increased pretty significantly, pretty quickly, up to that high 39.5%. So the questions around the 7% threshold, it was identifying a period of time over the course of the fall where we did hit a valley of the positivity rate that started to go up from there. This coincided with a change in strategy from the CDC and also a change in strategy from, which was shared by Rachel Horshman. At this point, it was no longer about preventing any contact with the virus, which was the strategy up to the fall. Now it was attempting to prevent contact with the virus to a degree that somebody would become symptomatic again. The virus is all is around us in schools. We know that the virus positivity rate is never going to be zero. So at what point do we take a calculated risk moving forward and work to keep students and staff as safe as we possibly can, knowing that it will likely never get to 0%. When we do get into that mandatory, mask optional, or mask recommended environment from mandatory, there'd be a trigger in place so that if we do start to see a spike in building, if a building would get 1% positive students, then there would be a return for that building only for mask mandatory for a period of 2 weeks. Once we do go mask recommended, then at that point, the district is mask recommended, and it would only be by building that, based on data in the building, 1% or higher, that building would be mask mandatory for a period of 2 weeks. That would not have an impact on any of the other buildings in the district. It'd be tied to that local data. On our last return to learning plan, the recommendation was made really around the peak in mid-January, very high percent positive, and that data is coming down. Made the recommendation to limit participation in athletics and activities to 3 spectators per participant. That's been in place over the course of this past month. With all other aspects of the plan, if something changes, we seek feedback from the Return to Learning Committee. So this was the one piece of the plan that we sought feedback from the committee around on Monday. So the change would be to eliminate this guideline of no more than 3 spectators per participant for athletics and activities. So the change is to eliminate that, to go back to open attendance at athletics and activities. However, when spectators are at the event, the expectation is that they would be full of masks. So we got feedback from the committee. When we have committee meetings, we do a 5-point Likert, strongly agree to strongly disagree. The question is posed to the committee to see, do I support removing limited participation at athletics and activities to 3 spectators per athlete or performer? This includes the visitors, is what it was. You can see that it's very strong support from the committee to remove that prohibition. So based on the feedback, the recommendation to you for your consideration tonight would be to approve the Return to Learning plan for a period of 30 days. It will be effective tomorrow, the 11th of February. This would include the elimination of that limit to spectators, all other aspects of the plan.
Spectators, and not the fact that we are a very small part of all the time. Only showing a 3.3%. Why are we still following the 7%?
Yeah, so I think so from my perspective, it's consistency. We've widely communicated the 7% and 1%, and the data shows that we're moving in that direction in a pretty rapid fashion.
Right, but look at all the data that people bring to us, the emails that we get that, scientific. And that we just ignore that. I don't understand why we're still doing this. We know that the school did like roughly Rockville, they're not big, they're about the same as us. But St. Charles, they're all tiny. And we're not. And, you know, the events hit us in the past have been worse than what we're experiencing now with COVID. But, call it, you know, but we let people in our building all the time. Now we're saying, okay, it's okay for the spectators to come in. We don't know if they're vaccinated or anything, but now we're gonna open that up. We have it. The high school use, or not the high school, we have other schools we use for voting places. The clinics, and obviously the people that have come into clinics. I just don't understand why we continue to follow this. To me, it makes no sense. It's like, we can never, ever, ever make our school 100% healthy and free of any kind of. There's proven in science that these masks don't do anything. They don't really protect us unless you get the new one that they're selling. And so why are we, I don't understand why. I disagree. I've been voting no on the return plan for at least 2 or 3 months now. I just don't understand that. And I don't understand, I know you said they were all about the spectator, but my understanding is they also wanted to bring up about going, asking optional, and that is not allowed to be discussed, other than the 7%.
At the
Yeah, at the meeting,
at the committee.
yes.
Yeah, so there were members of the committee that voiced their concern about remaining mask mandatory. It wasn't something that was brought up because it wasn't a change. The way that the committee works, if there is a change, like the recommendation has been consistent around masking, anytime there's a change in the plan, that's when we seek feedback. And so there was a change moving away from that spectator limit. So we saw the feedback from the committee to see if they supported that change.
But they're not allowed to ask for a change. They're only there to, if you really change it, you're going to put it through.
Yeah, so if there's a change in the plan, we seek feedback on that, and there was not conversation around a change to go to mass adoption. That wasn't part of it.
Wasn't that limiting the committee to can't bring up subject like that, then what, I don't understand what the committee is there for.
So the committee was designed to provide feedback around the district plan. And the approach has been, if there's going to be changes in the plan, to receive feedback around these changes. But there was not a recommended change around masks. So meeting on Monday, it wasn't a situation where the committee voted whether or not they wanted to move to mask optional or not. It was change the plan, which is
But I look at this data report, I like looking at these snapshots and everything, I know this is from the 28th of January. But if I read this right, every school then is below the 7% threshold. Or the 1% threshold, except for one. And district-wide, we have, positive rate, positive test for students is only 22 out of 6,500 or so that we have. I bet you we have more kids coming to school as a whole than that. And it might be strange to say, but I agree with Ruth and everything she said. But I think we're there. I think we're beyond that. And I can't tell you if these masks work or not. I can't talk to it, but it's not in the about it. Okay, but I do believe there has to be a time. There has to be a time. I see more people wearing a mask like this nowadays than I see anything else. So as my students walk into class in the morning, it's like, what's that? Now I'm breathing. Because I'm tired. They're tired of being tired. And I tell you what, at the end of the day, when I get done from school, I gotta sit down and catch my breath because I have multiple. And I've been over 10 to 3 times.
It is a good, if we make it optional, just be more fancier than their pants, right?
No, ranking goes by the city of St. Louis, and the city of St. Louis says wear garments. So we follow that.
I'm at a point where I'm ready for this, and yes, and do it for myself. I don't think it's necessary anymore, and the optional thing that is recommended, whatever. There's still going to be lots and lots of students and teachers and whatever who are going to work. That's what that's. I don't think we're ever going to be good. I think it's going to be with the start. And it could end up being one of these viruses or whatever, that at some point in time, it could be an ambulatory thing for in school, just like all the other vaccinations, because I don't know who it is that decides that. It would surprise me if in maybe it took another 10 years or so, that would be on the list. And, if this stays around like I'm thinking it will, I think that's going to be a recommended thing or a mandatory thing that is starting in school after that, which would help a lot. I don't have any students that I'm around, I've not heard any of them complaining about the mask. I have to say that.
And I know you want me to represent the high school. But I'd love to hear your. About it. All I can really say is that I don't have say in the vote, but depending on how the votes are going, everybody is on one side, everybody is on the other side. But the problem is that the students just really need consistency. Because by changing the mask mandate so many times, to be 1%, 7%, it's a lot of students who don't understand what that means, who don't understand how to change it. And I know some of my teachers have had to explain to students what it means. I have to explain to students. Also, Dr. Hayes, I had a conversation with her. She said something to me also just in general don't understand what it means. Like they just heard, oh, okay, that's mandate, so we don't need to wear masks. But then they didn't understand, but we still have to wear masks. So no matter which side we switch to, I just hope that the board is going to stay consistent, because changing it multiple times for students is a hassle, is confusing multiple students, is keeping the teachers on their toes because they have to explain it to the students. And I'm guessing that it's also confusing parents as younger kids. I call them siblings. My little sister in the 6th grade, she part of it not understand it at all.
So Janai, is it the confusion around whether like changes in having to wear masks or not, or is the confusion around the data?
A lot of students don't know the gender, a lot of students don't know the gender, they don't know who's optional. They know the teacher determines what a mask is, but then they also know that different like social media pages say, oh, well, it's optional with this percentage and stuff. And a lot of students, I'm sure you know, they don't pay attention to percentages, they don't like that. They don't care about that. All they really see is what's posted on social media. So I'm just basically trying to ask for this, like, when vote, even when I'm born, no matter how many times you're on the other side and want to change the opinion, just try to keep it as close as possible, because all of that movement is confusing, like, just a lot of students, no matter which side the students are on, because it is a lot of students who want to take their mask in. They thought about it, and I've seen whole classrooms, like in my Spanish class, they had like a whole like argument about it when they first started to come out. They were like, no, we don't mask on. The other was like, no, we don't mask on. It's a lot on each side, but at the end of the day, by changing it a lot, that's not going to be the best thing for students. So I see everybody must like get on figure out like an in-between space that everybody can really for all the students, and maybe the parents and teachers too. at lunch, all the kids have their mask off, right? It's half the kids have a mask on, half the kids have a mask on. Me and my friend, we would eat, but if our mask not on, myself, she would put their mask on. It just depends on what type of group they're by, what type of group they're sitting in, if there's groups of people on the mask, or people that are not really walking around with all. Really, all they need to know is if you can or you can't. Basically, yes. If I have to look at this, because they don't understand the percentages the way that I'm trying to learn plan is. Please learn. That's it. There's one something that. So even if we were the last, that's still the case.
Yeah, so school buses, city buses, metro trains, that's under the National Transportation Safety Board. Even if we were to go mask recommended, that's a separate guideline that is maintained. Kids would have to maintain masks on the buses at all times, even if
How do they determine their guidelines? Do they look at numbers or how do they decide?
I'm not sure how the NTSA, yeah, I'm not sure how they.
Or well, if I would put out, that's much like this. Whatever that, they've already shown that, you know, so. We give out this the little. But by making it optional, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that you have separate ability to say, you don't need to wear this anymore, or you should wear this. To other people to say, you should say to the kids, they don't have an option. It sounds like they would not have an option.
Correct.
So I want to be clear on that one. Right.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't follow everything you said.
So it's not that they have an option to wear it, they have an option, if in the event, whenever we got to the point of voting, the option comes when they're at school. They're riding the bus, according to what I'm reading, federal law requires that they have the mask on the bus.
Correct.
So I want that to be clear to everyone, so that message is clear, and we don't get that. That's nice. Yes.
What questions for them?
Question about, so I know we're thinking about the recommendations for especially years. Is there, and I'm not sure where we're at on this, about parents or guardians or grandparents coming into the classroom?
So right now, it's still prohibited. Right now, also, outside groups coming to buildings are also prohibited. That's not a recommendation. Those parts would still. Visitors to classrooms right now, parents, visitors, they come to the school office, do school business. And in outside groups, BBC basketball, Laverne Meyer Dance Club, other outside groups, they're also. So the thinking is the recommendation would be have back up the moment that we will get 7%. That's the thinking. Visitors to classrooms would be allowed outside of the
It's doing the whole thing.
I think this answer is, even though it's maybe dated, I think that's very telling for our district. You can't control what happens in anywhere else. I mean, I just watched the news tonight and statistics put up, they like doing statistics. Yeah. One of every 5 black students in the city are not vaccinated. 4 out of 5 white students are. That's very tough. We can't control even that in our own district. They're reaching out to their communities and they're doing it in different ways now in the city, now that they know and understand some of the data. That's great, but that's in the city. That's a totally different kind of atmosphere. Our district is a very tight community that is doing the right thing and we're looking at it. I think in any given day, in the winter time, we've got more kids with diagnosis than we have with COVID. Okay. I understand the city schools have challenges. I get that. I wish them all the best. I really do. But that's not one challenge that looks like that we have. Because data shows that. Okay, and as far as consistency, if we're recommending elimination of, how many spectators, then we're going to be sitting side by side, shoulder to shoulder, for as long as a basketball game is, or a volleyball game, or whatever.
Part of the, to that point also, the reason for the elimination around the spectators is that's a choice that people make. We know that the virus is around us. They can choose to go to a game or performance or not. Kids don't have a choice around school. Kids may use it every single day. So that's the distinction between loosening up around activities, athletics, and it's the compulsory attendance. Kids need to be in school in person every day, 5 days a week, which we've been able to accomplish with a lot of these strategies. There's risk everywhere. Choose to take the risk to come to a sporting event or a performance. Choice around the school. I believe board members with the way that the data is headed, and I believe in the approach, and I respect all of the opinions that are shared. I believe in the approach of setting a metric, and I believe this is likely the last recommendation that we would be making to you, because we see the direction the data is headed. Crystal ball, is it possible that we would be last optional prior to spring break? I think based on this metric, I think that's where. So just.
So what happens if the majority of the school board tonight votes no and approve this because this is simply nasty?
So if the board does not approve the return to learning plan, it's not like we revert to what it was before. We don't have a return to learning. We need to have an approval tonight. If the board would vote tonight to remove masks, that would go into effect tomorrow. It will go into effect immediately.
We could make the change tonight.
So, yeah, so I'm making a recommendation, and the recommendation is what it is. If the board member would choose to make a recommendation, it's good.
So you could vote yes on the return to learning and then still vote on the maps.
We would think we would take. I need to change the letter to take out the 7%. Second is when we hold it in the past. We did that. What are the look at options? Right now, we're basing off even everything is mandatory based on these percentages. So if we say options, say we want it to be of such and such. So that's not it. We go about our percentages. say the rate fall is between, below 7% using our metrics, not saying.
Which is where we are now.
Right now, we use 7% based on what this now.
No, but I mean, our percentage is less than the 7%.
Because I do believe those metrics are still very important in just your.
I mean, if you do this every month, if there's a surge, we can change it again. Instead of continuing to just approve this because it has to be done. And we still have to do that. So if there's a surge, then we can change it again. Or district surges, then we don't feel comfortable, then we can change it.
Or also, you know, we have this in one school or two schools. Right. That those schools would be the ones that would have to. The other schools, okay, and then they don't.
So which is what the point is.
Which is-
Right, I think most kids just want to.
Okay, so what is the mechanism for changing the recommendation there and inserting statement having that option? How would that fit in?
So the entire return to learning plan includes all aspects. It includes, masking, social distancing, hand washing, building use, all of those pieces. So the return to learning plan includes all that. And so masking is just one.
So you just, right, you would just change, you could just change the mask and face covering. Washing your hands, that's all the steps.
No matter what, we should encourage that I think what the and all this other stuff, I think that that's a good thing there. Flu season, cold season, and all those other seasons, now cold season. That's it. I don't know how the domino effect of it all, but I would like to see the recommendation include making the mask.
We just change it. Just to say, such and such a day, COVID positivity rate, in our district falls above 7%. Wearing masks in order to move from volunteer. And then we just switch it.
So using the district data right now, so like, you're talking about the district positivity data here?
Sure.
So 7%, we have 6,400 kids in the district. Right? So it's building by building now. And you can see where the district data is around positive students and positive staff. So, 7% is a very large number of students and staff. I don't have my phone out on my calculator. Students.
So like you had a building of 500.
So what we have is if, when we would go mask optional, the masks would get put back on a building of 1%. We have it, we've had buildings that are covered, yeah.
Bruce, 2%.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Okay. So we eliminate 7% from the county, we put in 2% for the village.
May I ask you?
I'm sorry,
Is Ms. Whitley on the committee?
the nurse, yeah, Erica, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay, and I didn't put my mom. Sorry. Congratulations. What is her feedback?
And Ms. Hill has been very consistent around the value of masking. And changes, when we made the change from going from quarantines to isolation, Ms. Hill was very concerned about the impact. You know, we have students that are around potentially symptomatic or positive brothers and sisters, but they're not symptomatic or positive themselves. So she's always very cautious, very thoughtful around, you know, very much on side of caution. So, you know, she's not. So I don't know what Ms. Hill would say about this conversation that's going on now. I know that Ms. Hill is supportive of the approach. I'm sorry.
You said that, what Ms. Rosa was trying to, like, is as options, you said that were to be voted tonight, that would be the week tomorrow?
Yes.
I would even ask if we could, I'm not saying like another month or something. But just in order to be able to communicate them out properly and put it on. Yeah, I think that's fine, like, Monday, sometimes you got the students all week, and just out of nowhere, they come to school on Friday. They just like, I have to wear the mask anymore, because I want to. Bunch of students were like, "Oh, we went," as I went to the speak them out so quick. But we can make this real simple by saying, the positive right to school is 2%.
Yes, it is.
Time for the spread to come back down. You know, with the assumption of 5 to 10 days.
That's so you say mandatory masking would be reinstated. Mandatory for at least 2 weeks.
That's what's in the return. Or mask optional, it's 2 weeks to build it.
That enforcement process. Message.
You know, as I said, this is I believe it will be the last time we recommend the the 7% threshold. We look 39.5% down to 17 today. It's dropped 22.5%. What does that look like if we project that amount forward? That's early to the second week of March, if things would continue.
Also ask why we need students. Are you looking to?
So the 1% positivity is the rate around students. So I think it's a trigger that's very delicate. There's different numbers of staff and buildings. So at the elementary, it's most likely to be impacted. 35 staff in the building versus the high school 100. I think it's a cautious, delicate trigger to have percent of students. Does not include the staff, so the staff.
I'm there a sweater too. Oh, I'm not saying about that. I'm saying when you consider 2%, is it 2% positivity rate? Students sweater or students pants?
No, it doesn't.
Staff.
Staff too. Yeah, it's not, yeah.
Oh, yes.
I'll make this recommendation. Okay, I move that we change the Ritenour return to learning plan for 2020 school year. Based on
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would like to leave, because I think that it has to be make sure that people understand, and it doesn't seem,
so you want to make it the 21st, that's a week from Monday. Oh, yeah, so no, we don't need it. How about the 22nd? That's fine. 7 days.
Sure.
Good with that? All right, so it's beginning February 2nd, 2022. If the positivity rate for each school reaches 2%, there is an estimate for mandatory 2 weeks until the positivity rate falls below. Due to federal law, that is serious. I said, we're gonna ask you to be mandatory. You won't, no, I didn't add it about being optional, but we just talked about it. So we're gonna ask you, I would say, we change from voluntary to mandatory.
No, that's what most of our discussions are about, to see what we do.
Yeah. For 2 weeks until the positivity rate falls below. Let's say 22. If the positivity rate in school is 2%, we're going to ask you to change from voluntary to mandatory.
Is that making it clear that on the 22nd, it becomes optional? I don't think that becomes recommended. Yeah, recommended.
And I feel like the verbiage that is in our return learning plan is what needs to be. Like, so what we have in it, it's like we need to remove that's 7% and up the one that says 1%. Right there. So I would say that we said it. You're just editing that mask and face coverings at school part. We don't need it to be all this with the rate ball, all this stuff, you know. I just don't follow the same. Well, yeah, I mean, if we say begin February 22nd, yeah, if the COVID-19 positivity rate in the Ritenour school district reaches, whatever, reaches 2%. Hold on. Okay. We want to just follow this whole thing.
But on the actually saying, is that going to be clear to the students, the staff, public that on the 22nd, has to become recommended? That's what, it doesn't sound like that's clear. Or is that what you're trying to say? If we are waiting until that date, it could be that it's going to be, the numbers could be that way. Anyway, we're going to wait till the 22nd. Well, like Chris said, we probably would be at a level where we would need the option.
We can't predict the future. This is what we want right now. We need to do this on the 7th. I think it's 7, good number, that's okay. What if there are three cents and it's still not to be like this?
But I didn't hear anything what you said that tells everybody that on that date, this would come.
Beginning February 22nd, COVID positivity rate in the Ritenour district reaches 2%. Learning indoors would move from recommended to mandatory. No, it's not the district, it's Ritenour school.
Right.
We're doing each school, not. So, positivity rate each school reaches 2%. Wearing a mask would move from recommended to
So we don't approve a plan tonight yet, because it's every.
Yeah, so we are saying in February 22nd.
We will then move from that required to that recommended. That should be the first sentence. And then the next sentence then should follow, and if we get the 2% threshold. So on, so
So beginning 22 February. Wax it out.
beginning on that date that you chose, the
Right.
22nd,
Right,
mask will go from being
okay.
mandatory to pick a word, optional or recommended.
Recommended is what it says.
Period.
So mandatory masking
period. And then everything else that you had after that.
And then the positivity rate in each school.
In each
Yeah,
building.
yes, I know, I don't think I'll say that. The positivity, how they look, the building level. Positivity rate. Yeah, the school building. That's the school positivity. No, we don't have that in this. It doesn't say. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. No, I don't know. Positivity rate at the school building level. 2%. Recommended to mandatory. So positivity rate falls below. Probably for this amendment.
And we would recommend to forward the return to learning plan with the team.
As a minute. Not reading it, you guys all know what it is. So you want me to read it now? Good.
I will second that.
What's the next?
Yeah, competency stay with me.
Okay, are we beginning 22 February 2022, mandatory mask behavior is recommended. For all Ritenour school districts, students and staff. The positivity rate at the school building level reaches 2%. Wearing a mask would move from recommended to mandatory for 2 weeks until the positivity rate falls below. Due to federal law, doesn't change.
Dr. Kilbright, may I ask that timing? Sorry, just want to make sure. So that process is. When we say it falls below that, so let's say we have 2%, and we go mandatory, are we starting on day 1 of 2 weeks? Or that they hit the 2%? Or are we saying, okay, now they're back and they're below 2%, and then we start the 2 weeks then?
So the way it was in the return to learning plan, the moment that we hit the percent and 2 weeks starts, it's 2 weeks. Right, so the moment that the threshold is hit, it's a 2 week. So it's not like if it bounces up, because that potentially is. Yeah.
So let's say it stays at 2% on day 1, goes to 3%, and more people have gotten it. So that on day 5, are you saying that day 10, we're back to,
It doesn't what that rate is. It doesn't matter if you go to 20%, or whatever the rate is on the 10th day. If you went back down on the 2, then on the 11th day, we're back.
Right. It's a 2 week chunk of time. The data continues, like, so the moment you hit 1% or the 2%, 2 weeks. At the end of that 2 week period, the data is up to 5%. For a period not less than 2 weeks.
But it says at least 2 weeks.
Well, that's muddy the waters, but we also want to what's up there.
Well, that's the recommendation, so we're going to accept the recommendation with this amendment. So that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody clear?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Barton? Yes. Ms. Jones? Ms. Gilberto? Yes. Ms. Enriquez Silva? Ms. Jones? All we can do is try. Yeah, that's work. If it's not, we can check it again. And I was like, why I was gonna say no was requested.
The way it was worded was to, they would determine what is planning.
All right. We will see for next week, cultural competency plan, started by Renee. And this is at Linda.
I'm back to my 9-year-old self.
So we are here to present the recap about the implementation of the cultural competencies to the PBTE and ask for a recommendation that this information is included. Of course, we have our Ritenour vision and our mission. And the piece of the equity statement that this focuses in on is prioritizing those interactions, and also that teachers are embedding cultural competency, cultural responsiveness, and trauma-informed practices into their teaching and interactions with students. So our ultimate goal of the cultural competency is that teachers and staff will be able to connect with students and families of all backgrounds in ways that are positive and meaningful.
When reviewing these cultural competencies, we consider these questions and really look at the competencies benefit all stakeholders by providing a welcoming space that is inviting and respectful for all families to serve. Competencies are designed to ensure equitable and inclusive practices in all classrooms, schools, to positively impact academic and social emotional learning of all students. Long-term look at each domain, professional learning, and evaluation calibration will help to increase staff capacity, decrease and eliminate disparities through effective instructional and professional practice. Ultimately, make us a more inclusive place to work, not just to teach and impact their students. Collaboration and examples will be used to help clarify the and expectations as we go. The teachers, so we're going to provide a competency, but also clarify those competencies through examples. The board members, you see in front of you the recommended language that the work of the commission has done. There's language in the 4 different domains in the PBTE that, based on your approval this evening, we can incorporate. This will go. Walk through with them last week and do it together in the work session.
Speaking of recommendation, and before that, we just want to make sure that there aren't any questions that need to be clarified before Dr. McBride presents the recommendation. Initially, I had it last week's presentation. There were around 32 people who participated initially. And then when we got into the work groups and the school started issuing work groups got smaller, but the people who were in the work groups were part of that initial work that we did last May.
I'll say that we're also just out.
Yeah. And then we also been on survey. I did take this group lots advice, and we are going to share that survey during the town hall meeting with our Latinx families. So we're still trying to see more of that information so that these recommendations are just a first layer. And then there may be another layer that we may discover as necessary. So we are still seeking that input from families here. We had 222 responses from students. So as we get that information, we are using that to provide input into the work that we do. And it can support the work that we're doing with other competencies. It can support the work that we do when we do our professional learning. It can provide input in a variety of ways.
Started years ago with Mary Seeds and Dr. Compton. Made some progress, but this looks so much deeper.
See how it goes. Awesome machine. With that, Madam President, I would like to move that we approve the helpful competencies plan as presented.
Mrs. Enriquez Lumber? Ms. Lovett? Yes. Mrs. Lovett Jones? Yes. Mr. Garden? Mrs. Lomas? Yes. Dr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
I also vote yes.
Forward to the future.
I did. Sorry.
Hey, that made that.
So I will go through our vision and our mission. We'll talk about our equity statement, treating everyone, and parents, staff, students, families, special needs, yes, et cetera, with dignity and respect for another individual cultural diversity. So I wanted to talk to you tonight about the board goal lists. And so I will tell you that I'm like kind of the way that I go through things, the way that my wife always teaches me about this. I like to write things out. I make a lot of spreadsheets, like all the time. And so when I was trying to sit down and look at the board goals, sort of figure out where we were moving, where we're going for the future, I had some different ideas. So what I will tell you is this is the first time that I'm sort of sharing this with everyone tonight. So feel free to stop me anytime and ask any questions. So like with every goal, we want to sit down and reevaluate. So these are the goals that we talked about in 2019. So goal 1 is communication with all stakeholders with fidelity at secondary schools. And goal 2 is ensuring at-risk students will have success with their schools. And so we do this all the time with our team. We sit down, we're always constantly evaluating our goals, our communication goals. And so at this point, I took some steps. I was working with Dr. Kilbert on this, but I really wanted to just look at some research and some data about sort of what the board said about their goals and how the goals directly connect to you in terms of the communication goals as the board. And so I looked back and one of the ideas that someone else had given me, just to take a look back at the board evaluation data. And so the data that you gave, like that you discussed among yourself, and so the data that I pulled was from October, the last October, I was looking through to the relations schools basically. So some really telling things as I went through this. And so one of the areas in terms of like looking at the communication today, really studies in your own evaluation, that you really seek to look to build positive partnerships within the community. So I highlighted some of the areas that really stuck out to me in terms of that. So, you know, this is an area I seek for improvement. So I was looking for that sort of those sort of goals and data as we're going through. You know, I think as a board, we can definitely improve. So really those areas where I was like, wow, we feel like the board feels like we could improve. This is small individual answers. So it wasn't just like you were talking, this was like individual feedback from each different board member. And so we look forward to more opportunities for ways to connect with the community. So that was sort of like that aha moment. I was like, oh, that's really good. And so I went a little bit deeper in terms of the survey data and said, you know, board reviews input. We'd like to have more opportunities to receive input. And also the board maintains some awareness of community values, concerns, and interests. I'm sure we can improve. This takes a lot of work to maintain awareness. And so the aha moment was like, wow, this is something that we can, as a board, would be able to measure. We'd be able to go into the community and make a positive impact from a board perspective within the community. And so sort of as we were moving, so I was going to talk to Dr. Phil a couple of other meetings. And so we wanted to see tonight about talking to you about sort of updating the communications goals for it. And so the strategy behind this would be that we would have increased engagement for every board member within the community. So really it's important that we would go out and sort of make those connections within the community and be able to interact more with the general public. And the good part is it actually is getting a little bit easier now to be able to do that sort of thing now that we're sort of away from the pandemic. This also gives us the opportunity to have measurable goals and objectives. So you can things like number of events and meetings and volunteer opportunities that we have. Support the board on the annual community survey. Every year we ask as part of our community survey, you know, your thoughts about the board and the community. So we're hoping that by being more involved, more to see those numbers. They're actually really good as of right now. We see those very consistent rise over time. And then ultimately, what's the ultimate goal is to increase some additional partnerships within the community. So you're getting to know more of the local officials. And I will tell you that we keep a spreadsheet of all the local officials. They change quite often. Sometimes I don't really get a chance to look at this much. And so we try to keep as much communication with our community. And feel free to if you have any questions. But so some of the opportunities that we would choose to like look at these goals as like a new or updated board communication school. So you have an opportunity to go to public meetings, public events, school events, volunteer opportunities, and civil service in the community. Some of the organizations within the community do that, and some of those opportunities that we might be involved in some of those organizations within the community. Really like those meeting committees, I was here just an example. You know, I'm representing the school board. You know, what can we do to partner with you? We're just simply going to a meeting and saying, hey, I'm a visitor, just wanted to say hello, just, you know, let me know that we're here. Really just, I think it's always impressive even at our own meetings when we have public officials come in and just say, hey, we have elected officials that come and say, I think that's really impressive way to do that. And it's a simple way. The only thing that takes is sort of your time to be able to do that. And then, like I said, hopefully become more familiar with our others within the community. It's sort of creating that infrastructure. Hopefully, we'll have our teachers and our students giving us opportunities for us to really. So moving forward, if we were to choose to pursue these goals, our team could accommodate one of the well-crafted and measurable goals in this area. So, like I said, the communication provided that objective strategies, timeline, and budget. And I jokingly said the other day, a budget could be just even some really good items to get people out of Exactly. I mean, well, a little bit different than that, probably a little more. That did I mean, sometimes a little disorder, but we could also provide things like talking points, just talking about positive aspects of the district and things that are happening within our district. We could help you find events, whatever sort of help in terms of that, and then sharing the opportunities on social media. So what we would ask from you in return, actually, as our team, is that if you would just snap a picture, ask someone to snap a picture of you, and some of those opportunities, we can share that on social media. That's what helps to build. Like just, it is always good to go out to those communities, but it's also good to tell people that you've been to those communities and connections as well. So looking forward, this is where we're looking south. We always go through the high process, which I have around basically part of the research, we have done a little bit of research as part of this determining the planning and survey data and determining. So then as part of the planning, we set like our broad goals and we also set some more SMART goals and specific goals. Take a look at some strategies, some and then ultimately we can implement. So that's what we really determine this month, like what's the timing of place, and then we evaluate on every 3 months, 6 months, on a yearly basis. How long do you want to take a look at? So anyway, the questions I have, this isn't actually for the recruitment thing, just we, what's like going forward to the school and setting goals and then do after that, so those goals, develop that team. So, like I said, we sort of struggled to go back to our team a lot, just thinking about sort of stuck out, and like I said, we stuck out. With your support, you just need to develop a timeline. You want to come back with
And so board members, this is something you have full control of. We're not seeking approval tonight. This is just for consensus. The idea of board member engagement, ultimately, we be tracking that.
I really appreciate this because I think with we're being able to get back into the community, but my office club kind of expanded, so I went to the Lions Club. That's always important to be very connected to one of your community organizations. But there's so much more that we can be doing too. And it's just like it's as big as them, but we are babies, so it's very hard. How do you coordinate that? And I think by having all these other opportunities that can allow us to have more access and more opportunities to be to community. Yeah. So I really appreciate working with
also, I think it's something as simple as it's like extraordinary times where you could be extraordinary involved with an organization about children. There's some opportunities to have some opportunities.
some of this time, not really answer as hard to see how to especially with the community. How do you do that?
I would appreciate the opportunity to meet some groups that aren't involved in, not experience in Spanish.
Well, thank you. We're excited. I was really excited about trying to pass our team just before asking me to look over everything. Thanks for giving me the time to visit this evening.
Yeah, I also want to say just that, like you said, I belong to a lot of different groups and because I grew up there and everything, but when I feel like I got the most feedback was whenever I felt campus for our bonds are, like that's when you knock on people's door and you tell them who you are and they're very open. I enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Board meeting calendar.
Seven. And we do not have a work session in July.
the November one is March at 6 o'clock. November,
So the reason for the change, if you notice, it's October 13 and November 3. Board members, there's a training that's out in Colorado about competency-based learning. If you remember, that was part of the reason why we shifted it this year.
Yeah, all
And
right.
so we're just seeking to do the same thing again.
Will we approve the 2022-2023 board meeting calendar as presented?
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence? Yes. Mr. Garden? Yes. Ms. Silverton? Yes. Ms. Silverton? Yes. Ms. Enriquez? Yes.
Well, all of the senior superintendent, but I would never know what that is.
Oh, the superintendent, work session?
Yeah, so at this point tonight, it's involved, sometimes it involves my evaluation of those. Might be something we could talk about.
And it's set for a time, but it's not always that time. No, we had it for December. I was here. Poor thing. And I was here. Very good question. Yeah. Thanks so much. So we're going to move to 3.05 personnel recommendations. Dr. Michael Chance.
Whatever we have here, we got items 1 through 35. Honestly, sorry, just gonna say we reached the point where we want to.
Yes. Yes. Ms. Enriquez? Yes. I also vote yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Moving to 3.04. Evaluation. clerk will discuss the results of the quarter self-evaluation results. Everybody talks. Andy? Yes. When I was looking through this, I was figuring that we could go through the ones that I saw where there were questions, or maybe is it all great?
Right.
But there's some you have to go back to that's fine too. Question number 10, the board actions reflect an understanding of the distinction between the board's role versus the superintendent's role. Okay, good. And question 10. Yes. There was still some confusion on this, and I'm not sure when they got the superintendent, if it's not area that it can be defined. I think the biggest distinction, just me looking at it, is just I think always reminding that the board is responsible for and that the superintendent is responsible for. And you know, in my mind, it's our number one and only employee is the board. And anybody else reflect kind of the better distinction and definition?
Just be very willing to let us, I think sometimes there's go talk to the person, right?
I usually would, and this goes back to when I first got on board, I thought you tell me something, I got that. I just think what Chris said, I thought it's sort of rises to win on the pictures of the other science was like, yes, I act on it. And so I feel communication between me and all of us are essential. And I might tell him things that, hey, Chris, you know, that, no, I didn't. There's no action to it, but I'm letting him know. And 5 out of 10 things might not be important, but others might. The more eyes and ears he has from different perspectives, the better off he is than having information. And then he can decide what to do. Yeah, it's hard because there's one sentence we say, we're a team of 8. We move and go together as a team of 8. But then there's that little of a person saying, but I think we all know. I think we can all understand that, even though he's the guy, he's our employee. As well as we all maintain a good relationship with him, we can go to him and have matter of fact discussions. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay. Well, the board encourages open discussion in a respectful and dignified manner. I think what I feel like this is something that's always developed. As I've been on the board, the more comfortable I feel about the discussion, because it's always interactive and collaborate. And I think it's not something that you go initially on. It's something that grows. So I think that's the board of the sheriff is and I think that that's part of that growth. For me, to know to have that conversation and also the difference between the work sessions and having the real meeting conversations. And then also from the boardroom, you still have something to talk about. Does anybody else want to share?
Well, I don't, for me, the discussion's everything. I love hearing everybody else's view. I really do. I don't know where you're coming from until I hear you say it. Tell me. If I don't like it, it's my problem. But I need to hear everybody's opinion. And I love that everybody on this board right now is willing to step up and say, this is it. If back to learning plans. If it went this way or that way, we've had a great discussion on that. Everybody's there. We could, as far as I'm concerned, I know everybody else would want to do it, but we could have gone for another half hour out. I would love to hear everybody's opinions on that. Why, what for, that's how we're going to tell each other and get more comfortable with each other. Like having
that ties into this comment too. It said based on a statement made during the retreat, when one member stated something along the lines that they didn't feel that what they had the same value as one. And I think it's being able to have that safe place so that we do feel that each of our voices are important and we heard and feel. It all ties together. We're dealing with personnel complaints. I will say, like, people. We make sure that those parents are, you know, talking to teachers. I feel like sometimes I go straight to like send a message to press or board.
This is like, don't worry about it. I just don't have to say it. Because it's all of us already have a district. I like to say exactly who is that from. Lots of times. But something just want to tell us something. It's not just actually. Like, oh, that knowledge, you know.
And as a follow-up with all that, even though you tell someone you need to talk to the principal, it's always been my thought that I'm also kind of like this, by the way. So not one can't be blindsided. The goal for me is to make sure that he knows about it before it gets affected. But I do tell people, you need to talk to. Oh my God. Talk to the principal. Talk to me about it. Go talk to the principal. If you have a problem with it, talk to her first. Let me know how it goes. So at the same time, I'm talking to Chris about something else. Hey, by the way, just so you know. Again, I don't want him finding out. You don't have to do anything right now. That's all. Just so you know. So,
I guess my question is, not doing that, or was it more that we're not sure how to do it?
And I'm very clear about the
right, and that's a fine line that we have to walk, because Paul Moore really was the mentor to say, Brad, anytime you tell me the superintendent about something that's going on, I just can't say, hey, thanks a lot, move on. I have to have one.
So I just think that as a board, that conversation with that's different, knowing his personality. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, but just knowing to give him that type of guidance and direction, like just be aware, so you're not blindsided.
Follow up. Yes, but we don't have a lot.
Yes, and I apologize. First, Doug, I truly apologize for speaking during the presentation. I'm so sorry. I was trying to get my notes. So I apologize.
No.
When we were going through the return to learning camp, I apologize to the board. I was under the impression that we were talking about the amendment and voting on the amendment. I was not under the impression that we were voting. So, because I felt like there was still some discussion pieces that I wanted to talk about before we voted. So I'm sorry I missed that. I misunderstood voting on the whole thing. So can I go back and ask for more discussion? More discussion on that, please?
And Doug, I apologize too, I was thinking about
That's
it, and I didn't say it about it. Example, if we get to the agenda, we vote on the agenda. If we want to make a change to the agenda, then there's an amendment. We vote on the amendment. And then we go into the agenda, then we vote on the amended agenda. So we have to do those.
So I think the recommendation was, the recommendation has a.
Right. This was different. There was a recommendation up there. And we added to the recommendation, which that recommendation then got added to the plan. Okay, there's a fine line difference, but there is that difference. Okay, and that's why I had that aha moment I tell you. There was a recommendation of change up there. When we vote on the amendment, or when we vote on the agenda, there is no change. Here's the agenda. If we want to change that, then we have that mechanism to change. Okay, we were already voting on the change, we just added more change. If that makes sense.
So I'm sorry.
So that we know what we're concerned about.
So, okay. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that I had a few people call me, and I know we've had multiple people come up and do presentations for this site. And a few people that I've talked to have explained to me why they appreciate having the mass meeting in place. So one family came to me and their children actually continue to go virtual, but one comes in order to do band and one comes in to do gifted. Those are their only connections to school, and they appreciate having that because it allows them to still have a connection to school even though they're completely virtual. And children choose to be virtual because they want to be able to keep their grandparents safe. So their parents were very thankful that they student who has not been able to come to school because of certain health issues and is now able to come. But now she is kind of scared about coming because of the possibility of last minute exam. So I think about those things also. And what I try to keep in mind is I understand that there's two sides, and I understand that people can make the choice to continue to wear the mask. But it's not always that easy, and it's not always that easy to wear it. I get that. And to Jania's point, is I'm trying to say, like, I just feel like if we're making the changes back and forth, it's going to be more confusing to the students. And that's what I don't want to happen for them. And I don't want the confusion for everyone. So when she brought that up tonight, I was like, that is a very good point on making sure that we're being consistent. So I wanted to share that because I am mad at myself right now. Not being or missing the understanding. And I understand that we can change it, but then we're talking about the inconsistency of going back and forth too. So I think what's important about that, and I'm sure you're about to say right. With staff and working with the principals and making sure that that does happen. In terms of making it clear when it's recommended versus when it's mandatory. That's some of the work that we're going to have to do to make sure that it is crystal clear, and also making sure that the masks are on us. So there's a whole lot of work that's going to have to happen. Yeah, but to remember, but to remind between the two, because they might see the one and not do it. And so then we have some time. There's some days in between. And my other issue that I have is that, like, I feel like we're not really going, like, if you look on the CDC guidelines, it says indoors, wear masks. That's what they're recommending, is that people wear masks. I feel like if we're taking away the 7% or, whatever, because that's a St. Louis County thing or whatever, we're not really using. I have enough information that is not driven by just articles or providing service. Make that decision, and that's why I asked about the nurse, what her recommendation. That is who I think that we should go with, because I feel like she would be the one getting the information and being able to guide us.
Yeah,
To make sure that students are in school and teachers are the ones actually teaching.
You just know that close. So stay in contact with the staff, and all of that. So all of that feedback, whether it be extremely supportive of masking, also work to share where there's been dissenting opinions and been strong. Try to represent the whole picture as to whether or not.
newsletter. But I thought it was really neat. And wow, you can have that, but it was really fun to. No, it was, yeah. But, you know, I thought it was really good. All these different things that SFE was sending out to. I'll figure that out. Other thing too, February being Black History Month, I did reach out to Dr. Kilbright and just kind of talk a little bit about how for us as a district, we pride ourselves on diversity, but we're kind of missing the connection in some ways. Work on the governance level, district-wide, as far as like how we're recognizing cultures for those particular months, like February Black History Month, and we're seeing when we posted anything district-wide. I know in our schools, we do things, and I asked Dr. Kilbright to kind of share a list of that. I don't know if other board members are aware of some of the things that are going on. Particularly in our schools, Black History Month. We do have the t-shirt sale that they're partnering with the Latin School. But also the high school game changers, they specifically from businesses. There's different initiatives that have students that are posted, and that's in elementary. Everything in a separate space. Every Thursday at the high school, the Ritenour cover group, they're wearing heroes, they don't have a big clothing. They also like history Jeopardy games. In the middle, they actually have every month they're recognizing the different posters. So we know like that our staff and our students are doing this, but also whatever particular month that is, whether it's like history month, out of the month, just taking the time to recognize that in those spaces. Only July, I think I've already told them if you did some for the outside of the school, in my school sometimes. I just want to say like, it's important to write down, I feel like what I said, and my students have to tell me, actually genuinely your students going through it. I feel like they especially with this in a lot of schools, whether you hear about it or not, a lot of them are those things that you have.
That comes from the young lady going to go to college or
My college, we can't hear.
Benedictine,
Oh, Benedictine.
full ride. I'm gonna sit close to her so I can explain. That is great. That is very good. The conversations that we have, and I say this many times, conversations that we have is better than the surveys that we could ever put out. Get to know each other better, get to know about the person and their opinions, and I think that is just a strength that this board now has. And I appreciate everybody speaking that, appreciate everybody speaking up and speaking that way. Like I said, I don't have to agree with it, I just, they're gonna be able to understand it, process it. Appreciate everybody. I did great. I'm sorry. I did great. I'm looking at this book. You got it. Madam President, I would like to move that we approve consent agenda items 4.01, 4.07, as presented.
Dr. Thomas.
Yes.
Mrs. Gomez. Yes. Mrs. Brennan. Yes. Mrs. Glover Jones. Yes. Mrs. Glover. Sure. Mrs. Enriquez Plummer. Yes. Moving to closed session, 5.01, closed session, 6.003.
Yes.